I've got 15 minutes to tell you why the 1986 movie Aliens is a masterpiece. A huge fan of Ridley Scott's original film, James Cameron got his chance to write Aliens after a meeting with famed producers David Giler and Walter Hill. After the two mentioned plans of doing a sequel to Alien, Cameron delivered a 40 to 50 page story treatment and was soon commissioned to write a full screenplay. Incredibly, the young writer soon left the production to direct The Terminator. The president of 20th Century Fox then did the unthinkable and waited for Cameron to become available again to finish the screenplay. If The Terminator turned out well, he would even allow him to direct. After his new movie proved successful, Cameron got the gig. Being less expensive, and with some of the largest sound stages in the world at the time, the decision was taken to film Aliens at Pinewood Studios in the UK. Like many studios in those days, Pinewood came with its own crew, and many of them had actually worked with Ridley Scott on Alien there. Here, the problems began. Where Ridley was held in high esteem, Cameron was treated with hostility and derided as the unproven outsider. Things came to a head when on-set feuds between Cameron and several crew members caused the production to fall behind schedule. After both the assistant director and the director of photography were fired, the rest of the crew instigated a mass strike. Thankfully, a truce was brokered and the production continued. Reflecting on the experience, Cameron has noted the transition from working with younger and dedicated film folks to a crew he considered, by comparison, to be comfortable. A workaholic and perfectionist to boot, the young director pushed against this mentality as hard as he could, and maintains that if he hadn't, the film would never have been made, let alone on budget and on schedule. As the late Bill Paxton put it, Jim knows how to squeeze every ounce out of a day, till there's nothing left of it, not even the rind. It should also be said that Cameron was very much a hands-on director, known to piss a lot of the old school guys off. Having earned his spurs fulfilling a variety of filmmaking roles, he knew what he wanted, and more often than not, how to get it. He would move lights, operate the camera, apply slime, you name it. Being such an auteur picture, Aliens undoubtedly owes much of its brilliance to Cameron. When it came to the story, Cameron wanted to expand on everything that had come before. Walking into a pitch meeting with his producers, so the legend goes, he said nothing, merely writing the word alien on a nearby whiteboard. After a slight pause, he added the letter S, so that it read Aliens. And just in case the money men didn't get the memo, another pause followed, before he drew a line down the S so that it became a $sign. He then strolled out again and the film was greenlit. What Cameron seemed to understand is that more is, indeed, more. How about we take H.R. Giger's design and transplant it from Ridley's haunted house to a battleground? How about not just one unbeatable killing machine, but an army? And what if we send the Marines in, and Ripley too? Indeed, Cameron's other stroke of genius was to realise that this wasn't the story of an alien species at all, but of a human being. The planet LV-426 has been colonised, but now communication has been lost. Time to send in a crack team of Space Marines and enlist the help of a traumatised Ripley. An undoubtedly cool setup, but why should Ripley return? Sitting at his typewriter with a picture of the character on the wall nearby, Cameron concluded, she goes back to conquer her nightmare. Aliens is about her revenge. Of course, read another way, Aliens has so much more to say. The boogeyman hypothesis from the original movie is alive and well. What if a life form was so attuned to survival, was such a perfect killing machine that it inspired a degree of Darwinistic respect, even from its prey? Then there's the dread of the Cold War evident in the overloading atmospheric processor, or the Nam in space metaphor, where an unseen force mounts stealth attacks, completely overwhelming the retreating Yanks. What resonates most though is the fixation on the preservation of the nuclear family. With Newt's rescue, we have Ripley as the surrogate mother and Hicks as the gentlemanly father, thus completing the perfect family unit. We also have this remarkable battle of maternal instincts, Ripley defending her child Newt, the Queen trying to protect and later avenge her fallen children, all summed up in Ripley's final battle call. Sigourney Weaver was initially very hesitant to reprise her role as Ripley. Fearing that her character would be poorly written, she had rejected numerous offers from Fox Studios to do any sequels. It took Cameron's script, with its strong focus on the mother-daughter bond between Ripley and Newt, to bring her back to the table. And while no one knew Ripley better than Weaver, Cameron also acted as a tempering influence, shutting down several of her rather madcap ideas that would fuel later sequels. In the end up, Cameron's vision and Sigourney's acting paid off in what is undoubtedly one of the strongest female characters in movie history. As for the movie's remaining cast, the film is populated with memorable and interesting characters. Kerry Henn got to play the resilient Newt, William Hope, the inexperienced Lieutenant Gorman, Paul Reiser, the scheming company man Burke, Lance Henriksen, the ambivalent and cool synthetic Bishop, Jeanette Goldstein, the no-nonsense badass Vasquez, Michael Biehn, the tough and pensive Hicks, and the late great Bill Paxton, the lollygagging clown in Hudson. Also giving authenticity to things was the late Al Matthews as Gunnery Sergeant Apone. Matthews had fought in Vietnam and was the first Marine to be promoted to the rank of Sergeant in the field. And in fact, all of the cast who were to play the Marines, excepting Michael Biehn, were trained by Al Matthews in the British SAS for 2 weeks before filming. Cameron forbade Weaver, Hope and Reiser from attending, creating a sense of detachment between the two groups. Rounding things out is Cameron's dialogue. For an action film, Aliens is surprisingly wordy. Take a look at many of the film's scenes and you'll be hard pressed not to find at least one quotable line. We're in the pipe, 5x5. They mostly come out at night, mostly. But the king of the zingers is of course Private Hudson. Paxton had worried that the hysterical guy who's always whining would wear out his welcome. But, as he later realised, Hudson is a pressure release valve. His defiant wisecracking of saying the inappropriate thing at the inappropriate moment gives the audience a bit of a breather. Maybe you haven't been keeping up on current events, but we just got our asses kicked, pal. And what makes it even better, Paxton actually improvised some of his most famous lines. Game over, man. Game over. We're on an express elevator to hell, going down. If you're enjoying this video and you think it would be good for your fellow Marines to see it, please hit the like button. For a film made in 1986, Aliens looks fantastic. This is all the more amazing when you consider the film's modest budget, a mere $18 million. Using a bombed-out coal power station for the human colony and alien hive was genius. A variety of in-camera effects, mirrors, rear projection, reverse motion photography, and miniatures were all designed by Cameron and the crew as a way of further extending the budget. Famously, when 20th Century Fox got back their first batch of dailies, they complained that none of the money they had spent was being used. They couldn't understand why they weren't seeing any effects shots. Gillan Hurd, Cameron's producer and then wife, took great delight in telling them that a majority of the sets that they were seeing in the film were miniatures or optical effects. Cameron's fascination with futuristic hardware, militarism and the Vietnam War informs much of the film's brilliant design. What's cooler than a spaceship designed to look like a gun? How about a dropship that's a mashup between a jet and a helicopter? With the Marines, meanwhile, Cameron encouraged the actors to personalise their rugged armour, something which Vietnam-era regular army also had a tendency to do. As for their epic hardware, there's the pulse rifle, a gun sporting the parts of not just a Thompson machine gun, but also a Remington shotgun. Then there's the smart guns, built from a combination of the classic German MG42 and even a Steadicam harness. Visual effects only made the weapons cooler. Cameron had strobe lights flash on set in time of the gunfire. A single white frame was also added every time someone in the film fired their rifle. Thompson submachine guns were even used to give the brightest muzzle flash when being fired. All of these things served to highlight the characters' faces and reactions, giving the battle scenes a frenetic, high-intensity feel. On the makeup effects, Cameron re-teamed with his Terminator collaborator Stan Winston. The aesthetic of artist H.R. Giger's original biomechanical design for the alien was kept, but pushed further. Out went Ridley's brooding, slow-moving drone, and in came Cameron's fast and dynamic warriors. The alien life cycle was also given a substantial upgrade, from egg to facehugger to chest burster and then to full-grown xenomorph. Only one question remained: where did the eggs come from? Cameron's answer: a 12-foot animatronic alien queen, with room inside for 2 puppeteers and another 14 to 16 external crew members required to fully operate it. The design and performance, it must be said, is spectacular. The Queen all hissing malice, dark intelligence, and later vengeful fury. A few things we haven't talked about. Together with his sound effect designer Don Sharp, Cameron sat in his living room and used a synthesizer to come up with many of the film's distinctive sounds. Everything from the aliens hissing to the nail-biting bing of the motion trackers. James Horner and the London Symphony Orchestra were brought in to deliver the film's score. Opinions on the quality of Horner's work vary, with some considering the score unoriginal and derivative. Horner has defended his efforts by explaining that he had very limited time, only 7 weeks in fact, to work on the film. He arrived in London to find that Cameron was still shooting, and had to wait another 3 weeks before even getting started. For all its brilliant qualities, I don't think Aliens would be the same without its score. In the main, Horner goes down the horror route, using a descending string line with occasional dissonant outbursts. Talking about the tracks themselves, I think most of them work. In particular, I like the almost anguished screams and mournful strings of the main title, the clanging intensity of Ripley's rescue, and the creeping dread of the complex. With its jarring strings and driving percussion, this has to be one of the most memorable and pulse-pounding action scores ever made. At first the film was very brightly lit. Cinematographer Dick Bush wanted to highlight the intricacies of the set and kept ignoring Cameron's directions. Eventually Cameron fired him, and the movie was filmed under very bluish and dark lighting, giving things the strange and eerie atmosphere we all know and love. Cameron was also initially dissatisfied with how Ray Lovejoy was editing the film. Lovejoy later locked himself in an editing suite over one weekend, and then presented Cameron with a fully edited version of the film's final battle. After watching it, Cameron told him, "It's perfect, don't change anything." Lovejoy later received an Oscar nomination for Best Film Editing. As for controversy cuts and moments, I'm calling it right now. Hicks definitely said Werbowski. I'm also with Ripley, the cornbread sucks. I think Gorman came good in the end up. The extended cut is the best, mainly for Hudson's speech, the sentry guns, and the scene where Ripley is told about her daughter. All that other stuff to do with the colony and Newt's family just hurts the mystery of things. Can't wait for the 4K release. Aliens is not only one of the best science fiction action films ever made, it is also the perfect sequel. Cameron could have so easily replicated the beats of Ridley Scott's Alien. Instead, he crafted a film that expands on all the ideas and themes of the original, while also differentiating itself. No easy feat. Where The Empire Strikes Back is one part of a longer story, Aliens connects with the events of the original, but also works as a standalone adventure. Aliens is the model for every potential sequel maker and the best argument there is for sequels. A masterpiece, for sure.